having brain cancer. It was just the horror of it.
My dad, because I was young, he hid a lot of stuff from me because he didn't want to scare me.
The prognosis was bleak.
This is a very dangerous cancer that does spread to other parts of the body, is an aggressive tumor, is life-threatening if not treated.
I wanted it to be something curable.
I was very frustrated and angry because I was trying so hard, and it was just like everything was against you.
But, you do what you have to do.
Cancer patients have to be treated uniquely. You don't treat cancer, you treat the person who has the cancer.
Welcome to The Incurables. I'm Don Wildman. Despite living in an era that boasts the most advanced medicine in human history, the afflicted still suffer from diseases that confound even the brightest doctors. It's tragic when anyone faces the dreaded cancer, especially when it's considered terminal. Most devastating of all, if the patient is a young child. When doctors told the Masons that their only child, a beautiful 7-year-old girl named Valerie, would probably not survive, they sacrificed everything to save her life.
To tell a child you have a deadly cancer and you're probably going to die is going to take away one of the most valuable tools I think we have as human beings, and that's the ability to fight.
When we got in the ER, it was really late, so it was pretty empty. I think there was maybe 2 other people in there. And I was just bored, and so my mom got out a game, and her face was really red. She was telling me she was having allergy problems when she was actually crying. Everything I remember was just being told everything's going to be fine. So I didn't have anything to worry about.
It wasn't until I actually saw the scans at the emergency room at Children's Memorial Hospital in Chicago and saw how big this tumor was. I'm thinking, how are they going to do this? If they were going to cut through my daughter's brain to get in there to take this out, what would that do to her? Death is final, and you learn to deal with that. You cope with that. You know. But what if she lives? She doesn't die, and now she's a quadriplegic or a vegetable. I couldn't deal with that. I was losing it.
Here is the story of a small, hard-working family. The father, Don Mason, an ex-police officer, is a small business owner. With his wife, Sandra, they are raising their only daughter, a bright-eyed, enthusiastic girl named Valerie, who embraces all life has to offer. She's the kind of girl you can usually find playing outside.
I remember the summer when I was 6. It was just so cool. We did so many fun things. We lived in a little dead-end subdivision with a big field in the back, and I'd be out playing and swimming and riding my bike. My mom and I and my dad, we had a truck then, so he did a lot of truck driving, and he didn't think it was exciting, but I thought it was so cool.
I would take her to gymnastics, and I would watch her, I'd take her there once a week, and she did pretty good. She wasn't going, I didn't see an next Olympic champion going on there, but then all of a sudden things started happening.
It was somewhere in that summer I started having really bad headaches.
She was like on the balance beam. It was on the floor. And she'd be walking and she'd fall off. And I said, what's the matter? Come on, concentrate. And I'd be, come on, do it again, And she'd be, getting upset. And she'd try again and she'd fall off again. And I was really getting disturbed by that.
It wasn't anything big or scary. It was just strange.
One day we were in the car, and she was sitting in the back, of course, and she said, Daddy, how come that sign's blurry?
An eye doctor said that I had astigmatism and gave me bifocals.
I looked at my daughter, and she had these tiny little oval bifocals. I could see the line. And I looked at my wife and said, what the heck is this?
The headaches continued, were getting worse. They would come and go very frequent. 1 minute be there, next minute be gone, and then she started throwing up. So we took her to her pediatrician, and he said her eyes didn't look right and said she should see an ophthalmologist.
And he saw a lot of swelling in the optic nerve, which meant there's obviously pressure on the brain.
He sent her out of the room. I thought he was going to tell me she was going blind. It was worse.
And all I remember was the phone call. My wife's voice saying it's a brain tumor. I couldn't believe it.
We went immediately from the ophthalmologist's office to get an MRI. And they said, yeah, it was a brain tumor.
And the next thing I remember, I was in my car driving to the doctor's office, and I still had my calculator in my hand, but I didn't have my coat on. I don't even remember getting in the car.
The Masons walked into the pediatrician's office to find out what was causing Valerie's recurring headaches. The answer was horrifying. The 7-year-old girl's pain was the result of a brain tumor that was putting pressure against the back of her eyes. Thankfully, Valerie's doctors found the tumor in its early stages.
They sent us immediately to Children's in Chicago. And we drove straight down there. And they admitted her right away and started her on steroids to reduce the swelling to get her ready for surgery.
Being an ex-Marine, being an ex-cop, I've seen death almost every way possible. The thought of my only child having brain cancer was the first time in my life I can actually say I was scared.
The cancer inside their daughter's head was a medulloblastoma tumor. These particular tumors seek out young children because they feed upon their undeveloped brain cells.
Brain tumors could cause growth retardation, obviously mental delay, and then you worry about depression, especially in family members. All those things can affect a child's physiologic and mental development.
Treatment is incredibly intrusive. Doctors first relieve swelling around the brain, sometimes by inserting a tube through the scalp. Surgeons then try to remove the tumor without damaging the brain. Sometimes parts of the tumor cannot be removed if too deeply embedded in sensitive areas. After surgery, doctors use repeated CT scans to see if the tumor has stopped growing. Valerie was only told that she was going to the hospital, but her parents knew. They were putting her life in the hands of complete strangers.
So we're out in the surgical waiting room like everybody else, and I wanted to do something. I needed to do more. I needed a place to pray. I never really seriously prayed, I was like everybody else, it was always a deal prayer. God, if you do this for me, I'll do it. But if you don't do it, the deal's off. And for the first time, I prayed. I prayed so hard, my body shook. I beat the wall. Yeah, I yelled at him, why this child? Me, sins, I got more sins than I couldn't even carry him in a bucket if I wanted to. This child did nothing. And to be going through this, it didn't make any sense. I said to him, if you leave her with me, I'll raise her as an observant Jew and I'll become one. And the surgeon finally comes out into the waiting room, and he took us in a little room. He wanted to talk to us. He says, I got good news and I got bad news. He says, well, it was a medulloblastoma tumor like we thought, and she's going to need radiation and chemo. And he said, so what's the good news? And he hesitated and he said, the tumor wasn't attached very well. It came right out. So there was no trauma to the brain. I didn't have to go into the brain to take it out. It just came right off.
Following the operation, Valerie needed 6 weeks of radiation and then months of chemotherapy. Like after many cancer surgeries, doctors hoped that the treatment would kill whatever cancer had not been removed on the operating table.
When he described to me, I had to figure it out. I said, you're talking nine months? You actually want to give my daughter radiation to her brain? Doesn't radiation cause cancer? He just sat me down. He says, could you live with yourself if your daughter dies and you didn't do this?
While other children were enjoying their summer vacations, Valerie headed to the hospital for months of chemotherapy and radiation. Brain surgery marked the beginning of a long and agonizing ordeal for the Masons.
I still remember this terrible taste that you get when you're being radiated. It was just terrible. The only way I could really make it go away is they would always tell me when they were going to start, and I'd hold my breath, because it was just the only way I could really seem to find without feeling really sick.
She would drive me crazy, constantly questioning the nurses and doctors. It was like, I'm one of those people, okay, whatever you want to do. No, not Val. What are you doing? Why? You know, what's this going to do? Why do I have to take this?
I was very frustrated and angry because I was trying so hard, and it was just like everything was against you. And it was about 3 weeks into radiation, I woke up from my nap. I used to sleep a lot. It just makes you really exhausted, so you sleep. I woke up, and there was hair all over my pillow, and I was spitting it out of my mouth. I'm like, there's hair everywhere.
While Valerie endured her radiation treatments, her mother discovered some magazines and books that recommended fighting cancer with alternative medicine.
And my wife said, she says, well, you know, there are some herbs and some things that are out there that can protect her from what they do. And I looked at her, I said, what?
I had never really thought about alternative medicine for something that serious. I had always, from my 20s, been reading like Prevention magazine, but that was just mostly for like eating right and taking a few vitamins. But when Valerie started going through the treatment, I started looking at different articles in it, and I'd read about something that helped people go through chemo or radiation or things to support their immune system, people with cancer. Anytime I saw a magazine article that said cancer, anything on it, I bought the magazine.
I took cat's claw, shark's cartilage, milk thistle, vitamin C, a lot of them vitamin C, garlic, nettle, coenzyme Q10, vitamin B12. I mean, the list goes on. I had a little pile of vitamins I'd be taking like 3 times a day.
Herbs, vitamins, minerals, whatever it was, mushroom extracts, anything. I just added it.
This made sense to me. Doing things to build the immune system, to make the body healthy, to help it fight disease, to help it fight cancer, to give the cells the nourishment and the nutrients it needs to be normal, to be healthy, that made sense.
We're staying away from sugar. Sugar is a big thing because cancer feeds on sugar in the body.
Well, that's all I need to know. No sugar for Valerie. You know, this family is sugar-free from this day forward.
After that 6 weeks was over, they let us come home. We waited about 2 or 3 weeks for her to kind of regroup because that was really hard on her. And then they started chemo.
Chemotherapy, I know it sounds really funny, but I had fun. It was actually summertime in Chicago, and we spent a lot of time, I was in there during the day. I was getting daytime treatments, and I felt great because I was taking all these things that help boost my immune system. My mom and I, we walked around the city, we took the bus places, you know, we went out to eat. I could eat again. I was very excited I could eat.
It was unusual for anyone to not get sick, you know, frequently during that time or not need transfusions. And, you know, and she looked good, even though, you know, she was thin. She didn't, you know, didn't look too bad for a skinny little bald kid.
I got a call from the oncology at Children's Memorial Hospital. He actually told me over the phone that Valerie's counts are way too good. Something's not right. So he said, well, we want to see what you're doing, because obviously you're doing something that we're afraid that you're countering. You could be hindering what we're doing. This was a moment for me. My wife and I go all the way down to Chicago. It's 45 miles away. We go down there and we meet with these oncologists. Nice men, truly care, I understand. And they take a look, and one doctor's looking, he's reading. doing this kind of thing. He flips the page. He says, that's a bunch of voodoo stuff, you know. And I said, what did he say? He said, well, we're done. I said, no, you're not. You called me down here for this special meeting because something's wrong in your mind, because she's not as sick as she should be. She doesn't need more blood. She doesn't have the illnesses and the fevers that you're talking about, you know. I said, that's because, thank God for my wife, that we found a way to make her healthy.
While Valerie's disease and required treatments were taking a toll on her young body, the cost of the radiation, chemo, and all the doctor's bills had nearly exhausted the Masons' bank account.
Financially, it's pretty devastating because, well, I was homeschooling, so I wasn't working in the beginning. It was hard for Don to concentrate. He missed work. So, you know, your income falls.
How do you go to work when your child has just had her brain opened up?
The supplements aren't covered by insurance.
Which is another travesty that occurs in this industry, this behemoth industry called modern medicine.
Go to the vitamin store and I walk out the door $300 later. It would be nice if insurance covered those vitamins, because that's a big strain. It's you know, it's been a strain. We did have to file bankruptcy the first time. But, you know, you do what you have to do.
Use the term remission when a patient's cancer is no longer active. Unfortunately, an inactive cancer can suddenly start growing again when the person least expects it.
You don't have to worry so much while the treatment's going on. Now you do. You know, treatment's over. Now it's a waiting game.
After my chemotherapy was over with, they always did MRIs. At first it was like every 2 months they would scan my brain and then my spine, and every 3 months, 6 months, and then they did it once a year until I was about, I think, 14. We were keeping up with, you know, all my vitamins. Years went by, and been about like 9, 10 years, you kind of get off the bandwagon, and it's kind of like, oh, you know, I'm good now, I'm fine, and my scans were clear, and so, you know, we just kind of forgot about it.
We got lax. A little sugar creep back in our lives, you know, because, you know, it tastes good. You know, we missed it.
In the quiet of their minds, the Masons were starting to believe that Valerie's cancer would never come back. Their lives had changed so much since the discovery of the tumor. Soon, Don's work took the family to Texas, and Don made good on his earlier promise in the hospital. Valerie was enrolled in a Jewish school.
Valeri came to the school where I teach, which is called Yavne Academy of Dallas, around 3 years ago. She would just sit right in front of me and ask me all kinds of questions about, you know, suffering, and questions about free will. Why do bad people have it good and good people have it bad, and all kinds of great philosophical questions. And she was hard to give class because she would constantly interrupt me. She was just a great student.
9 years went by. We were getting ready to celebrate being 10 years cancer-free.
And then I started getting pains on my left side.
Valeri came to see me for some hip pains. They were very mild hip pains, but obviously enough for her to come and see me and talk to me about. We examined her. Her exam seemed to be normal examination. We gave her some anti-inflammatory medications to take, did an x-ray of her hip, and everything seemed normal.
I started losing feeling from about here down the middle on the left side of my left leg and throughout my foot. And I started limping really bad.
And it got worse and worse, and it got to the point where she would wake us up in the middle of the night saying she couldn't go to sleep because the pain was so bad.
The doctors and the orthopedic surgeon and the physical therapist upstairs and everybody's sciatica. And she had, you know, if you read a book or went on the internet, she had all the classic symptoms of sciatica.
A physical therapist wanted to start Valerie immediately on a heavy treatment for sciatica. But something about the therapist's approach felt wrong to Don.
So she goes, well, Mr. Mason, actually I was going to recommend pain therapy. I says, pain therapy? What would this entail? Well, they're probably going to be injecting her steroids into her spine. It was like a hammer hit me. I said, what, are you out of your mind? And I slammed the phone down. I said, Sandy? She goes, what? Look in your book of insurance and find a chiropractor. These guys are nuts.
Valerie's mother found a local therapist, and Valerie did enjoy some relief. But her underlying problem never went away.
But I started getting these really tight pains in my left, right over here, my left calf. And so he had this special massaging machine he'd rub up, and it felt really good while he'd be rubbing that on my leg, but you take it off and the pain would come back. He could tell that the muscles in my left side were really tight for some reason that didn't really make sense to him. And he suggested we see a massage therapist or a masseuse.
Don felt like he had reached a dead end when one of his friends recommended a well-known massage therapist in Dallas.
He's a massage therapist? You know, he's not even a doctor.
I'm a certified Bowen therapist, first and foremost a massage therapist licensed by the state of Texas. The Bowen work is not massage, it's not chiropractic, it's not acupressure. It's, if anything, an ingenious series of signals to the central nervous system of the body, and every body understands and responds to it.
I call him up and he says, well, Mr. Mason, I'd love to be able to see your daughter, but, you know, and he's a real nice boy, he's a nice man. And he says, but I'm I booked, I won't be able to see her, and he's telling me for a couple of months. That ain't happening.